Fallout's back in POG form. Can't say I'm terribly impressed with episode 1 of season 2 of Fallout. Usually I go easy on first episodes because they're setting up the world and the characters. Meanwhile, I don't typically give them a mega high rating for the same reason I just mentioned. We're setting the story up. Maybe there's a payoff at the end that makes the entire first episode a sensational watch full of important information. But we just don't know yet. However, Fallout is in its second season, so it doesn't get that luxury. Fallout also failed to stick the landing at the end of season 1. Moldova claiming she did everything for the love of Lucy's mother after the chain of events she set in motion? Give me a break. She's a villain and deserved to die. Maximus failed up, and Lucy and the ghouls set off tracking Hank towards Vegas. The inside vault stuff was boring, and the whole Vault Tech plan to drop the bombs to ensure that they dominate the market was pants on head stupidity. After season 1, I expect a massive twist that makes no sense if you have a memory span larger than that of a goldfish. I gave season 1 a 6 out of 10. I was bored most of the time, and the failed twist made me rewatch the entire season to see if I was wrong about it making zero sense. I was right, it made no sense. Sets, props, and costumes are all 10 out of 10, but that's a solved equation. All you need is the money, the designs are already there. Let's be clear here, I haven't enjoyed Fallout for the story since Fallout Tactics. Now that's saying something. Fallout has become more about family than Fast and Furious. Anyway, let's get into the episode recap and spoilers! One of the weirdest things about episode 1 is the whole Robert House versus whom I'm assuming is Anthony House. Do people who haven't played Fallout even care who these people are? I was never a big fan of Mr. House, so a series around him is going to be a hard sell. Now we're following what I assume to be his brother Anthony in his attempts to make mind control devices. This guy is Anthony, right? I mean, unless the captions on the TV are incorrect in stating that this is Robert House, founder of Robco and victim of being cheated out of his inheritance by his half-brother Anthony. The inheritance being the H&H Tool Company. This opening scene is choreographed so poorly. The big bruiser guy just stands there and listens after taking him outside. He should be whooping his butt. Meanwhile, his two dopey friends do nothing but stand still and laugh. They should have him surrounded. It's all so unnatural. Watch the scene again, I dare you. You know, before I got time to watch this episode, someone on Reddit posted a thread about how chilling the H&H Tools speech was. I spent the rest of the episode waiting for this amazing speech, but I guess this was it. Some people will eat up any old slop. The obvious question is, why did his head explode? The device itself is not explosive as it survived unscathed. Does it raise your blood pressure so high that your skull detonates, but you don't even get bloodshot eyes? Is anyone paying attention while making these SFX? Why not just have him collapse? Gotta get that bloody mess perk. One of the things I love about modern Fallout games is the radio stations, but even still, I do think they're overdoing it with the music. Almost every scene has a song. Give it a rest. And why is he using this method of market research? Are you telling me that companies in this world have strict ethical constraints on human subjects? He has 30 million in cash, why not rent a building and invite people to become test subjects? We now return to the adventures of Skeletor and Quirk Chungus. I hate how Lucy went through a life-altering event in season 1, going from a chipper okie dokie to a morose okie dokie. And now she's back to being wide-eyed and innocent. Lucy never changes. She comes across as a real moron in this scene. And what are the Great Khans doing in this scene? The ghoul repeats his "get on with it" line 3 times, and they just stand there like stunned mullets. The writers could have had them turn to each other and question his sanity, or had them look for who he's talking to, but the sun's in their eyes. I don't know. I have to do everything around here. Why is the dinosaur facing inwards towards Novak? It's supposed to be an advert for the hotel and the thermometer he's holding is facing away from the road. Whoever kills the girl gets to eat the dog. That's the best you can come up with? Is this rated PG? The explosions in this show are weaker than those in Ironheart. Once again, TV producers fall for the belief that if the flame doesn't reach you, the explosion will not do any damage. A car blows up with what is clearly and rightfully an atomic mushroom cloud, but it just knocks the guys standing next to it over. It should have blown them to pieces. And then, when the ghoul gets the grenade launcher, he shoots a guy in the head, blowing it clean off, and the guy standing next to him is unharmed. Come on now. He puts a grenade down the back of a guy's shirt and pushes him into the pool, but his body parts fly into the sky. If anything, it should have painted the bottom of the pool. Okay, so the shadowy figure in the balcony at Voltec, is that Anthony House? Does Cooper Howard's wife have a chip in her neck under that bob? We can't have her be evil, surely. The emergency test system scene is probably the worst scene in the show so far. I assume it's to show how deep the paranoia has reached, but there's even an announcement saying that it's just a test and people are running around screaming that they're gonna die. I especially love the woman who runs out onto the front lawn to make a phone call. Back to the vault. Did Vault-Tec not consider the effects of inbreeding? So many simpletons in these vaults, and these are meant to be their best people? Water chip, just like Fallout. Fallout 1? The original Fallout. But they managed to cobble something together from spare parts. Wait, you can do that? Luckily, there's a water shortage and not a food shortage, because I know who the main culprit would be. Damn, she's huge! Lucky they don't have any confined spaces underground. Speaking of spaces, are we ever again going to see the wide open spaces of the simulated outdoor area? What happened to the goat? Why is this guy walking around idly nibbling a lollipop? Shouldn't he have a job? A PhD in event planning? Why would they waste resources on that? In Vault 32, Davey is having difficulty because the vault is a mirror image. At least there was a little bit of a payoff with him turning the wrong way when he left. But not before discussing Chet's not wife's not son. Double cucked. I don't understand why she's turned into such a psycho. Was it losing the eye? She doesn't even care about her own son. This must be the excesses of corporate America I've heard so much about. This whole scene is just there to remind us that Norm still exists. Speaking of the devil, he's been trapped in Vault 31 all this time and he's never once thought of tipping Bud over. Tip him over, then negotiate an exit. It's easy. Bud waited this long to turn the lights out. What is he, stupid? You've got someone trashing the place, destroying equipment, and you could have made the joint pitch black. And you're implying that Bud doesn't need the light to function so he could stab him with the needle in the dark. Or when he's sleeping. Come on, show. You're telling me Norm's been awake for 3 weeks? So he turns the lights out and says, good luck finding something to eat with no lights, when he's already established that there's nothing more to eat. Next, Bud talks about how the vaults were the product of a functioning society, therefore proving that the world was a better place for Vault-Tec before the bombs dropped, you morons! The classic flea soup scene. Some dodgy CG. It would have been nice if the old lady had been itching when they approached, because of the fleas. Okay, we have to talk about the building. Why are there cars on the roof? How do you get them up there and for what purpose? Because they look like the 1950s? At least Lucy paid for the soup, but the sign says 2 caps and she pays 2 caps. But the woman says her son owed her money. And if they find money on the body, it's hers. He owed you caps. No one calls it money. Lucy and the ghoul come across Vault 24. Flashback to Cooper Howard being asked by Moldaver to kill Robert House. I'm unsure why he brought his daughter to the meeting. You might think, because he can't leave her at home alone, but she was already alone when he came home to get her. And don't they have Mr. Handies to babysit? A movie poster referencing the Legion. And he said it. He said the line, the classic welcome home line, which ushered in the era of Fallout 4 base building that is killing the franchise. If the next game has a base building component, they better make it worthwhile, like RimWorld, with a tech tree and research requirements. So now we're back in Vault 24 and the ghoul says that every time he enters a vault he thinks about what might have become of his wife and daughter. Oh no, Barb's not in Vault 31, is she? Hahaha, inbreeding jokes. Norm's scenes are so stupid. He waits until he's at his weakest and then attacks. Then once the attack is over, he's never looked fitter. I guess now that he's defrosting people, things might get interesting in the vaults, but surely they have a password. You can't just unthaw everyone. Back in Vault 24, the ghoul says, more matching jackets when they come across a room full of commie skeletons, even though what he found previously was a hat and not a jacket. Odd. I can't work it out. Were they brainwashed by the chips or by the power of propaganda? To be honest, I forgot Hank called Lucy Sugar Bomb, so I couldn't work out why he was screaming it at her. That's the problem with waiting 2 years between seasons. Hank's made it to a Vault-Tec bunker and thank God there's a coffee pot with a handle big enough for a suit of power armor. And he's drinking coffee just like in Twin Peaks. Also, he's very lucky the suits all fit him. Okay, here's where things get mildly interesting. Who is Hank communicating with? You'd assume it was House, but that's the obvious choice. Are they actually going to do a big reveal of House on his life support machine? You'd think if Hank was working for House, you would hear his voice responding, and then be shocked when you realise he's basically a mummy on life support. But with the mind control chips, you'd assume he's working for Anthony House. If what we said earlier about Robert being on the TV and Anthony being in the bar is correct. Oh no, yo-yos will be the next big Fallout cosplay must-have accessory. And thus ends a fairly lackluster episode 1 of season 2 of Fallout. I'm surprised they didn't have any of the Brotherhood in this episode. We had snippets in the prologue and the epilogue, but none in the main episode. I'm really annoyed at Lucy going back to innocence. I would have hoped she'd been hardened by her experiences and maybe softened the ghoul too. But alas, we are basically back at square one. We've got 2 interesting developments. Norm opening the cryo tubes and Hank revealing that he's been working for someone. It seems a bit ad hoc though, like the events of last season don't seem like the actions of someone who's betraying Vault-Tec and on a mission to get back to work for their true master. Oh no, Hank couldn't be working for Kaiser, could he? I mean, it's possible he became under his influence after blowing up Shady Sands. Oh no, that's so corny. Anyway, I would have given this a 7 out of 10 but for Lucy's regression. So it's a 6 out of 10 for the first episode of Fallout Season 2. The sets, costumes and props are all immaculate. Full credit to those teams. The CGI could use some work, the blood effects look a little formulaic like they're some kind of Unreal Engine plugin. The transitions from live head to exploding head on the Sugar Bombs guy was very well done. I'm interested to see whether the Legion pull a bit of a Homelander from the boys and act as the writer's obvious analogue for a real-world villain. But due to their inability to write interesting characters, they become the most liked character of all. Onwards and upwards, things can only get better from here, right? Thanks for watching. If you like what you heard, drop a subscribe. If you didn't like what you heard, thanks for sticking around. Maybe it'll get better next time. See you later.